All right, today we're jumping into a really fascinating and honestly a pretty complex theological puzzle from the Qur'an. It all comes down to a single verse that has had scholars thinking and debating for centuries. It's a real head scratcher, so let's just dive right in and figure this thing out. So here it is. This is the verse from Surah Maryam. And right away you can see why it's so startling. It sounds absolute, universal. It says, "There is not one of you who will avoid this." And that seems to mean everyone, the sinner, the saint, even the prophets. You have to ask, how can that possibly be fair? So, how are we going to make sense of this? Well, first we're going to look at just how shocking this divine decree really is. Then, and this is a really cool part, we'll see how the whole puzzle might just hinge on a single word. That's going to lead us to three major scholarly interpretations. And finally, we'll see how it all comes together to show this incredible balance between divine justice and mercy. Okay, so first things first, let's just absorb the sheer gravity of this statement. This isn't some kind of conditional warning, if you do this, then that will happen. The way it's phrased makes it sound like a universal, unavoidable reality for every single human being, period. And this right here is the core of the paradox. I mean, if God is truly merciful, how could his most devoted followers, the people who lived righteous lives, the prophets themselves, be subjected to something like hell? It feels like this one verse contradicts countless other promises of paradise and salvation we see for the faithful. And that's exactly the question theologians have been wrestling with for ages. So where do we even begin to look for an answer? Well, what's so fascinating is that the entire theological puzzle and its potential solutions all seem to revolve around the true meaning of just one single Arabic word in the original text. And that word is word. Now, in most English translations, you'll see it written as enter or pass over, but the original Arabic is so much richer, so much more nuanced. It actually carries a whole spectrum of meanings. It could mean literally going inside a place, but it could also mean just passing over it, or even just getting close enough to see it. This ambiguity isn't a mistake, it's actually the key that unlocks a much, much deeper understanding. So because the word has this built-in flexibility, it's naturally given rise to several major interpretations over the centuries. We're going to walk through the three most prominent scholarly views, and you'll see how each one resolves this divine paradox in its own unique way. Okay, so here are the big three. The first one is the approaching view. This one takes wurud to mean just getting close. So in this scenario, the righteous are brought near enough to see hell, to really appreciate God's justice and just how immense their own salvation is, but they never actually enter or feel its harm. The second, and this is probably the most famous one, is the bridge view, the idea of crossing a bridge over hell. And then there's the third, which is pretty profound, the idea that everyone does enter, but for the believers, the very nature of the fire is changed for them. Let's talk a bit more about that second view, because it's centered on this concept of as-sirat. This is described as a bridge that every single soul must cross to get to their final destination, and it spans right over the abyss of hell. Now here's the thing. For the righteous, this bridge is a wide, brilliantly lit path that they cross with ease, some as fast as lightning. But for others, well, it's said to become sharper than a sword's edge, a truly terrifying final test. And look, this isn't some new age attempt to soften a difficult verse. These ideas are rooted in a long, rigorous tradition of theological scholarship. What you're seeing here is a page from a Tafsir, that's a scholarly commentary on the Qur'an, and it lays out these exact same views, the approaching, the crossing of the bridge, and the harmless entry. This just goes to show how established these interpretations really are. Okay, let's explore that third view a little more, because it is arguably the most mind-bending of all. It suggests that a believer's faith is so powerful it can literally transform the nature of reality itself, even the reality of hellfire. And there's actually a powerful precedent for this right in the Qur'an. Remember the story of the prophet Abraham? When he was thrown into a massive fire by his people, God didn't just put the fire out. No, he did something much more profound. He commanded the fire itself to change, telling it, "O fire, be coolness and peace for Abraham." So the idea is, if God can do that for Abraham, he can certainly command the fire of hell to do the very same for a faithful soul. So when you zoom out from all these details, what's the big picture? What does this all tell us? Well, these interpretations aren't just clever wordplay to get around a tough verse. They actually reveal this perfect, beautiful harmony between two of God's most fundamental attributes. Think of it like this. Divine justice is absolute. It's universal. The decree must be fulfilled, so everyone, with no exceptions, has to confront the reality of judgment. But then you have divine mercy, which is this specific, powerful grace that shields the faithful. So while every single person experiences the root of hell, fulfilling justice, divine mercy steps in and ensures that for believers, that experience isn't one of punishment, but one that actually confirms their salvation. And once you see it through that lens, the entire verse just transforms. It stops being this terrifying threat. Instead, it becomes this incredibly deep statement of theological truth. It's not there to scare believers, but to actually build their certainty in two really essential realities. And here they are, those two truths. First, the divine justice is real. It's unavoidable, it's universal, nobody gets a pass. And second, that sincere faith isn't just a list of things you believe. It is a real protective force. It's a light that can guide you safely across the sharpest of paths and can literally transform fire into something cool and peaceful. So in the end, a verse that at first glance looks like a scary paradox actually becomes this incredible testament to divine sophistication. It kind of leaves us with a bigger thought, doesn't it? When we come across a difficult passage in a sacred text, maybe the goal isn't just to find one simple answer. Maybe the real wisdom is in appreciating all the profound depth that's contained within its many layers of meaning.